the New World Order.
Those are the roots of trouble.
I imagine that right now you're feeling a bit like Alice, tumbling down the rabbit hole. Let me tell you why you're here. You're here because you know something. What you know you can't explain, but you feel it. You felt it your entire life. That there's something wrong with the world. You don't know what it is, but it's there, like a splinter in your mind, driving you mad. It is this feeling that has brought you to me. This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. All I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed. But I am asking your help in the tremendous task of informing and alerting the American people.
And now, welcome to another episode of Down the Rabbit Hole. Here's your host from federaljack.com. It's Popeye.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another live edition. It is July 31st, 2014. Another live edition of DTRH here on the Truth Frequency Radio Network. Give a big shout out, truthfrequencyradio.com. Give some love to Chris and Cherie. They do a hell of a job providing this platform for all of the hosts to be able to talk to you all. So thank you to the two of you for everything that you do behind the scenes and for even, having time to do your own radio show. It's immensely appreciated by the hosts here. So anyway, let's get right to it. Tonight, I am joined by yet again this week another guest co-host, not a guest, but a guest co-host, another radio show host. But this guy's more than a radio show host, and he's been on the broadcast numerous times. He's an author, he's a comedian, he's a free-thinking individual, a forward thinker, and an all-around nice guy, and a little bit nutty, but that's okay. That's why he fits right in with me. At least I think so anyway. Anyway, without wasting any more time, let me bring to the airwaves my good
Christopher Walken's here.
There he is. Mr.
Time to talk about Nibiru and Area 51. Go ahead, Popeye. Lay the questions down.
So, Mr. Walken, welcome back to the broadcast. It's been too long.
I haven't been here. I was out trying to find some Vietnamese food in my neighborhood.
You like Vietnamese food, apparently?
No, I hate it, but it cures what ails me.
And what is it exactly that ails you, Mr. Walken?
It's my Vietnamese girlfriend.
And how would eating the food cure you of your ailment?
It's for her skinny ass. It's not for me. Now, come on, lay the questions down.
So, Mr. Walken, I want your take on some philosophical issues tonight. You think you're down?
I'm more philosophical than a mouse with a beer.
A mouse with a beer?
Yeah, you gotta be a pretty philosophical mouse to be hanging out with something made of grain. Figure a mouse is hungry. The first thing he's gonna do is eat. It's gonna take a long time with those little tiny hands and fingers to make beer. He's gonna have to be philosophical.
My God. Wow, you have a unique way of looking at things, Mr. Walken. What do you think about the situation going on in the world today? Do you think the world's a very dangerous place right now?
Making your way in the world today takes everything you got.
Wow. Did you just quote Different Strokes, the TV show.
Taking a break from all your worries. Sure would help a lot.
Oh, wait, that wasn't Different Strokes, was it? Was that
the
Cheers?
world don't move to the beat of just one drum.
Jesus, no, it is Different Strokes. Oh, no. What was your favorite episode of Different Strokes, Mr. Walken?
Definitely the molesty one. Todd Bridges is now going around telling the truth about Hollywood, and I just want to give that little man props for coming out all these years later and talking about it.
The one with the redheaded kid, what was his name? Dudley?
I don't remember. I was always looking at Dana Plato.
That turned out to be a sad case, didn't it?
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. Sorry about that. I didn't mean to go dark. I'm working blue tonight. But anyway, I want to congratulate Todd for coming out and talking about it. Hollywood's a weird place. I don't get a lot of work anymore. And people think it's because I'm difficult to work with, but I'm not. I'm just not into the freak show.
Well, you're into this freak show. I mean, you did our opening for Hangar 18, which is wonderful. Thank you so much for helping Chris out with that.
Yeah, I was philosophical that day.
So you're a philosophizer, an actor.
Well, I was drinking beer. That's just what I say to Pong Ming, my Vietnamese girlfriend.
And do you and your Vietnamese girlfriend listen to Truth Frequency at all?
Oh, yeah, we're all up on it. Nibiru's big in our house. It's coming around the mountain when it comes. We're going to be ready. We got a picnic planned for the Illuminati governor when he lands. We figure Nibiru's going to invert the gravity of the planet, which is cool. Because my nutsack won't hang down so far.
Wow. Yeah. Just wow, Mr. Walken. So, you tune into Truth Frequency. Have you ever heard of one of our hosts named Liam Scheff?
Oh, well-known ladies' man and closeted homosexual. That's what I heard.
And have you ever listened to his radio show?
Oh, no, I can't do that. It's I'm doing things at that hour. When is that on? I don't know. Usually, I'm in dance lessons all afternoon, and Mr. Scheff likes to do his radio show in the afternoon. So the answer is a big fat yes. We pipe it into the studio, of course. It's
Chef, Mr. Walken.
Mr. Scheff. He's from Rochester or somewhere. I remember him from childhood. We used to call him Rat Tail because he always had a mouse in his pocket.
Always had a mouse in his pocket.
Well, that's what he always said it was. He was fiddling around with something.
Was it a drunk mouse, Mr. Walken?
There's a philosophical mouse that was squirreling around, and we'd always say Liam. We called him Liam Scheff. That was his name back then, but he changed it. He didn't like the way it sounded. He said, I'm going to be big in the internet. We said, what are you talking about? Remember, it's 1972. There's no internet. Except in France they had one. Maybe he was French. That little communist.
Liam Scheff?
I think that's what it was. Okay. No. Okay, Pong Ming's giving me a call. I'm going to hang up, and thank you, Popeye, for your brave work, for bringing the truth about JFK, who was shot by a CIA assassin days before a Nibiru robot dummy was put in the car and filmed for the American public. JFK is still alive in Russia, living under the name Lee Harvey Osmond. He's got 3 wives, 4 children, and he runs a library. It's a fact.
And Pong Ming, she's telling you got to get off there.
Don't say her name 3 times. She'll show up at your house. She's like Voldemort.
Don't you mean Beetlejuice?
Same thing. All right, honey, I'm coming. Don't eat the what? Okay, those aren't wontons. I left those. Okay, I gotta go.
You go take care of her, Mr. Walken.
Thanks, buddy.
Thank you so much.
All right, singing in the rain. Bye.
Oh, there he goes, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Christopher Walken making an impromptu appearance here on Down the Rabbit Hole. I guess my guest co-host has been patiently waiting in the background. He didn't even pipe in when his name was mispronounced about 150 times there, but I guess he didn't want to step all over Mr. Walken. So by now, I'm pretty sure that you all realize that tonight my guest co-host is my good friend, Mr. Liam Scheff. Liam, welcome to the broadcast, brother.
Hey, Papa, what's going on?
So did you hear Christopher Walken come on and mispronounce your name like 15 times?
I was in the bathroom. Sorry about that.
Yeah, he called you Liam Scheff. He said that he used to hang out with you when you were a kid.
Yeah, when we were kids. Yeah.
You and Walken and buddies?
That's when I was... I used to live in Rochester. I raised mice, and I had a whole life there, really. It's just a part of my story I don't tell very often.
Well, thanks for Christopher Walken for making an impromptu appearance and appearing out of nowhere to give us that information. So how have you been, brother?
Well, my friend, the road is long with many a winding turn. It leads us to who knows where. Who knows where? I'm fine. I'm researching religion, which many of the people in your audience are way ahead of me on this. But it's fascinating to me. I didn't intend to take apart religion, but as we've talked about before, I've taken apart the HIV disaster. And if you want to understand it, it goes like this. The tests don't work and the drugs are poisonous. Everything else is a myth. The drugs are poisonous and will kill you, and the tests don't work. You can figure it out if you just add one and one is 3, said the heroin addict. So that's how that went. And then I had to say, well, you can't make any headway with this AIDS thing. You can't talk with people about it. It's a religion, so you might as well not talk about it. It's pointless to talk about. Because it's a religion, people want to believe it. And I thought, well, if it's a religion, it must have a basis in an actual religion that existed before. And I became aware over the years, really, that the undercurrent, the underpinning of the AIDS issue was a concept of the Ten Commandments. And then if you go a little deeper, it's the concepts of Leviticus in the old Hebrew comic book called the Torah. And the Septuagint and all of the various books that are in and out, depending on whose church you go to on which day of the week and what country you're in. Very, very much like HIV testing. The tests are read differently from country to country. So I guess it is a religious thing after all. So underneath this notion that we're going to test the blacks and the gays with a test that doesn't work and give them drugs that kill them so that they die and make the prophecy come true. HIV equals AIDS, right? So they die and make the prophecy come true. Get it? Underneath that is this old Levitical thing, and it's in John Gospel 4, whatever that is. It's in St. Paul, or it's in St. Paul or Saul. And the thing from the Bible, as you well know, is gays must die, and women, if you're a woman, I believe the Bible's instruction is don't speak in church and make me a sandwich. That's more or less it. Don't talk, make me a sandwich. And if you're a man and you're a slave-owning man, you can have as many wives, up to 700, I believe, is the number with 300 concubines, sent by Solomon, Old Testament chieftain, not king. And so I look and I realize that all we're really doing is we're reliving this ancient prohibition against free thinking and freedom and kindness and generosity, and there it is.
And in your personal belief, not in your research, but I know you're, well, I guess from your own research, you could use your research to form your own analysis. But in your own opinion, would you consider yourself to be someone that's, I guess, if you were going to label yourself, would you say you're
medically average? I've never had any complaints. What you're saying.
No,
just
not
on probably the low end of medically average.
Not,
you know what I mean?
not that label.
I
don't care.
Going with that.
Yeah, I don't care about that. Would you consider yourself to be
circumcised.
Well, I don't know.
Yes.
No,
Yes.
I don't. Not even that.
Yeah.
That's good for you. I'm glad you are. I don't want to say atheist or agnostic
an
or any of that,
atheist.
but
No, I'm
do
not
you
an
believe
agnostic.
in? Do you believe in?
I'm a wild-eyed spiritualist. I think I'm like an Indian. I mean, I'm both kinds of Indians. I see everything as being alive. I see everything as containing an essence of the universal spirit. I think that the truest was that. I hope that was the question, the direction the question was going.
No, that's actually right. Yes, right where it was. That's why I said I don't want to. I didn't want to label you atheist or agnostic or anything because I hate labels. I think they're all BS. So
I hate labels and I hate people who use them.
Exactly.
Those people who use labels should be killed. The labelers.
Exactly.
I've become one. Oh no.
What do you call someone that labels stuff? A labeler. Oh shit. I just did it.
I know.
No, but like I know that you obviously
all the tolerant
believe
people will be raped at midnight.
Exactly.
What?
You're like, wait a minute, aren't you doing the exact thing that you're rallying against?
You know what I just watched? I just watched the Aronofsky, that sort of visionary, crazy, interesting filmmaker. I watched his Noah with Russell Crowe, and it's a soggy piece of screenwriting. I mean, it's not very interesting, but it's visually dynamic as you would expect. And in the thing, he has to essentially let everybody on Earth die. And people are begging to live, and he's just sitting there. No, the Lord wants them to die, and so die they shall.
Yeah.
Anyway.
When you bring up religion, it's a contentious issue with people, and I mean I understand why. I don't make fun of them for it. See, I think that's part of the problem with discussing religion is the people that don't I don't want to say fall prey to it, but the people that don't buy into it. They kind of have a lot of times the opposite end of the spectrum is this arrogance of, well, you're just a religious, retard and you don't know anything because you're dumb and you believe in stuff. Well, opposing or approaching somebody, I should say, in that type of attitude, I mean, it doesn't help. I mean, if you get into a conversation with them and they're just hammering you with stupidity, it's different if you fire back at them with something. I'm talking about. Right off the bat, it's kind of like this attitude that a lot of people that don't buy into religion, they look at it like, well, if you do, then you're just some low-level idiot. Well, no, because I can understand why the people would do it. I mean, we're all just if you understand that humans are biological computers, and if you put bad code in, you're going to get bad code out, right? So it all depends on what they were, programmed and taught growing up and what they believe in. And then that gets into the whole religious dogma thing and everything. I don't think that there's not some creative force. I believe everything has a living soul. I think, or, a soul. I think there's an essence in every living creature there is. I mean, I go to the point of, if I find ants in my house, if there's not if there's an infestation, it's different. Then you got to handle it the way you'd handle it. But like, I live down by the Everglades, dude. I found snakes, lizards, frogs, all sorts of bugs, spiders in my house. And I usually actually save them. If I can, I save them from my cats. If it's too late, well, then the cats get them like the gladiatorial games. But there are times I've picked up, snakes, frogs, lizards, whatever, and I release them back out. I throw them outside. Because, like, who am I to just say, oh, well, it's in my house, I kill it. That's a living creature. Why would I take its life if I don't have to? See, I value life. I understand that. But I also don't think that what we have been modern religion has it nailed down. You know what I'm saying?
I have an Appian way of crucified cockroaches in my kitchen. I leave them up for the others to see. I nail them to small. I go get the popsicles and I eat the popsicle, hoping they'll be attracted to the sugar, and then I surprise them, and then I tell them that this is it, and then I spray them with an immobilizing whatever, and I leave them alive, and I nail their little cockroach hands and feet. I have to make these very complex crosses. So I hear what you're saying, but if you're a cockroach and you're in my apartment, sorry, sayonara, auf Wiedersehen.
Well, I also have a rule. Like, people are like, so what would happen if, like, you say spiders and stuff? What would happen, like, well, I mean, if it's something big and gnarly and dangerous and poisonous, like,
I know.
If it was arachnophobia, dude, no.
Yeah.
That thing's going to get strung up like you talked about. It's going to get killed and then strung up as a warning to the rest of, the insect society. this is what happens.
We both are in Florida, and you understand that the cockroaches here are actually mice in medieval armor.
They're huge. They're like the size of a pack of cigarettes, and some of them have wings. They call them palmetto bugs.
They will come at you through the air. They are 2.5 to 3.5 inches long. These bugs. For you Asian girls, you know what I'm talking about exactly. All right. Anyway.
Oh, wow.
Oh, man.
Liam taking a shot at all Asian men's.
I'm joking. I'm talking about the length of your middle finger. That you're flinging at me I'm kidding. Why is Liam talking about Jesus and penises in the same sentence? So I'm very spiritual. I consider myself, I lean east. I'm a Hindu sympathizer. The Native American Great Spirit concept has a lot of sway with me. I just consider this to be an electromagnetic universe. The Atman, the Hindu, I think, mythic understanding of the soul of the universe is one that the Brahma and then the Atman, the splintered sort of soul, the holographic soul that's in all of us, or the splintered crystal that's in all of us. I resonate with that. I get it. It makes sense to me. My life was not full enough. I felt empty and a bit in a void before I truly embraced my East-leaning spirituality. That said, I would be unlikely to make international policy based on the Bhagavad Gita, even though I enjoy the Bhagavad Gita. So, when you're beginning to take apart Western theology, you run into the series of comic books called the scripts that were worked on for hundreds of years, really thousands, called the Bible. It's a funny story because this isn't a book. This is a couple hundred, maybe more, little treaties, pamphlets, books of poetry, history, weather prediction. And most of the stories are clearly not true or couldn't be true in any way because they don't relate to anything that's anybody's ever seen. They're magical stories of people who lived for hundreds and hundreds of years and did magic tricks that didn't make any sense, like, walking on water and curing some blind people and some lepers, but not all, if you're God, just abolish leprosy, No. When it's time to pay the tax man, you have to make a fish appear with a gold coin in its mouth. You have to use your magical powers, and that's in one of the Gospels. So they're very specific kinds of magic tricks that are as specific as the special effects you find in a Michael Bay movie or Spider-Man movie. What I mean is that the era and the history in which the story was written evokes the character of the story. So you have this story, and these desert people are doing desert people tricks. They're making bread into more bread. Why? Because food is harder to come by. They don't have a Walmart to get 99-cent sugar cakes, genetically modified sugar cakes from. So if you don't have food, you're going to be really hungry, and that's why people used to be really skinny, because they didn't have a lot of food. And if you're living in a poor area of the world that isn't sucking off the fat of the Roman Empire, and they weren't, then these things are really life and death. It's a very different situation. So the stories in this New Testament are evoked by the civilization that told them. And now what's interesting to me is that I've been discovering that the civilization that told them was a group of Hebrew Greeks, Hebrews leaning into the Greek philosophy called, and you'll tell me if you know this, if you've heard this, the Gnostics or the Essenes.
Yep. There's still people that talk about that they're part of the Gnostic society or whatever today.
Well, Gnosticism, the Hebrews, the tribes of Israel, when they went back to Jerusalem, I skipped the whole Old Testament. Let me do this quickly. What's interesting about the Old Testament is that it doesn't really exist except in the Bible. In other words, there's no historical accounting for the major events and stories in this book. The events and stories that can be found perhaps in the archaeological record are 500 years, many centuries off, and they're very different in scale. So if you have a King David who's master of a giant, city-state, in reality, you have a chiefdom. and it's hundreds of years away from when it was supposed to be, and that changes the whole historical record. In reality, in the Bible, if you have a guy called Moses who wrote the Old Testament, including the part where he died, I mean, that's the tradition. Of course, that's not true, but in reality, in the archaeological record, you don't have a Moses anywhere. Now, that was surprising to me. I thought he was at least an historical figure, but even the most conservative archaeologists today would say, no, he's an amalgam, at best. He's a conglomeration. He's a number of different types of people who did a number of different types of things. What about the Exodus? Exodus, more whatever job for the people. We got to get out of there. The 600,000 slaves who built the pyramid have to leave. And they, trample through the desert and stay in one place for about 28 years. They trample around the desert for 40 years. Well, no. The Egyptian records don't show anything like this. There are no Israeli slaves building anything. There are no 600,000 male slaves who leave with their 600,000 or 700 or 800 or 1,200, a million and a half wives and children. That doesn't exist anywhere. There are no settlement camps. So the Old Testament is turning out to be what you kind of might imagine it is, which is a book of mythology, like Ovid's Metamorphosis.
Well, and I'm just saying this, but if you said to somebody, I got lost in the desert for 40 years with a bunch of people, with 600,000 people, even 100 years ago, they would have looked at you sideways. 200 years ago, they would have looked at you sideways. 40 years in the desert, you don't think you guys would have stumbled upon something? Maybe make a straight line with 600,000 people in one direction. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Break sneaking up. Don't go anywhere. So we are back, ladies and gentlemen. Anyway, and I wasn't making a swipe or a condescending remark when we were going to break. I'm being serious. I mean, if you looked at some of these stories, and it's just one of them, if you looked at some of these stories today and said, there's 600,000 people wandering around the desert for 40 years. Really? Nobody came up with the bright idea? No one had an idea over the course of, 40 years that, hey, here's an idea. Let's take, we got 600,000 of us. Let's take 300 guys, you go in that direction, 300 guys, you go in that direction, 300 guys, you go in that direction, and 300 guys, and you go in that direction. Somebody's bound to stumble upon something. Shouldn't take 40 effing years to get out of the desert. I mean, so some of these stories, you start to, if you look at them with a little bit of common sense, you're like, okay, could it have happened? Maybe, yes, I don't know, whatever. Well, then you try to inject a little bit of common sense, and you do a little bit more research, and you find, like I was telling you during the break, over the years I've been in my researching religion, I find that it all stems back to ancient Sumer, and it all go Babylon and Sumer, and if you read the Sumerian tablets, what do the Sumerians talk about? The Anunnaki, and that's who brought them knowledge, and that's and then you start to realize that in some of these ceremonies, like the Ordo Templi Orientis, I have audio from these guys in the OTAO trying to invoke Tiamat, and while they're trying to invoke Tiamat, they're praying to Lord Enki, and Enki is one of the Anunnaki. So what are a bunch of avowed quote-unquote Satanists doing, praying to a satanic deity like Tiamat, supposedly, right? And at the same time praying to Lord Enki. So you have to look into this stuff, and you can't just let religious dogma hold you down, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And, like I was just telling you, and you wanted to bring this point up, my personal opinion is if Jesus was a real guy, I think he was like a truth teller. He might have been a pot-smoking truther, right? And he was walking around telling everybody the truth, helping people out. Maybe he knew maybe he did have powers. Maybe he just knew certain things to help people heal wounds better, like maybe cannabis oil. Who knows, right? And he's going around doing these things and helping people out and gaining popularity. And the Romans were like, uh-oh, we need to take care of this. And just like we see the powers that shouldn't be now, what do you see them doing when a grassroots organization gets started? It gets compromised in one way or another. So who's to say that they didn't steal his ideas? And they did, because then they made him this rock star. But they had to kill him first. First they killed him, then he became the rock star after his death. They had to get him out of the way first.
Well,
You know what I mean? I'm just saying, if that's not just an allegory, I'm just saying that would be, you know what I mean? That's my version of that story, which pisses off a lot of Christians.
No, it's a convincing narrative rooted in an observation of how politics and rebellion work. So let me rewind a little bit. The Pharaoh story is that there were 600,200 something, so over 600,000 male slaves, who had wives and children. So you're talking of upwards of 2 million people. 2 million people walking out of Egypt. The Egyptians don't have a mention of it. All that you get from Christian defenders is a lot of hand-wringing and special pleading, the same thing you get from the scientific community about, vaccination or any of the other stuff of theirs that doesn't work. Then you have the issue of Jesus that you talked about. Well, the problem with saying that there was a he is that there were many Yehoshuas, and his name would have been Joshua or Yehoshua, which is a play, I believe, on many, and then the name Messiah. The concept of Messiah was ripe at that point in the Levant because the Jews, the Hebrews, didn't like being occupied, and they had kicked out the Greeks in the Maccabee rebellion, and then the Romans came in and said, "We're occupying you. We're the empire of record." So they were waiting and waiting and waiting for their next Davidic Messiah to come along. So the concept of Messiah has really been misunderstood. Messiah was the guy who was going to lead them out of bondage of, having to pay taxes to the Romans. Well, there were plenty of these guys. In fact, there were plenty of Joshuas or Jesuses. There was no single guy called Yehoshua. There is a record of a Yehoshua HaNatzri who would have been a Nazarene. There was no Nazareth as any kind of established anything at that point. The researchers point out that that's a mistranslation of the Nazarenes, and the Nazarenes were Essenes. So there were these groups of Gnostic spirit seekers in the mystery cults that emerged from ancient Greek, Platonic, Aristotelian, Heraclitan philosophy. And these mystery cults had, different levels of induction. You go to the Buffalo Lodge and they dim the lights and they light the candles and they whisper something, or you have to do something, or you experience the darkness of a cave and then they shine a light on something and you see something you've never seen, and it's meant to represent the mystery of the world or the universe. And I don't know what the mysteries are. They're mysteries. I mean, they went away. The Christian church as it formed had a scorched earth policy for anything that it had stolen from. So it built its temples on the mystery cults of Mithras, who was a dying and rising god man, who symbolized the harvest and the death in wintertime and the rebirth in spring. And they built Mary on top of Isis, and they built the baby Jesus on top of Horus, another sun god. Now the concept of a guy dying on a cross, well, the Romans crucified a lot of people. They put most of them on poles, but in fact, the various versions of the story in the Bible, you have Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. But the crazy thing is that it's not Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. It's really Mark, Matthew, Luke, and John. And Mark was written first, and it was written so badly, and it's so unmagical, and it's so Jewish and Hebrew. There's no resurrection. There's no virgin birth. He's a good man, maybe a great man, but not necessarily the son of the God. It's a bit of a confusing story. So the next guy, and that story wasn't written until people think the 70s or 80s or so. Now, if there was a guy called Jesus and we actually measure time from his birth, which is crazy because time existed before his birth, that would have happened in 0. So in 70 to 80, you get the first story of the guy, but you don't. You actually only get that story in about 200. That's when you see the first gospel of Mark. Only in about 200, that's when the first, existing gospel of Mark that anybody's ever seen comes from. So we have stories coming 7 decades after the magical birth that was heralded, and there were miracles in the sky, and there were stars pointing to different places, which is pretty hard to believe. If you can do satellite navigation by a star in the sky to find a house, it's okay. You have all the kinds of things that didn't work out, like the census being taken so that everybody in the ancient world had to go to the place that their great-great-great-grandfather had come from generations ago. Nobody ever did that. Nobody ever has done that. That never happened. And then you have all Christians now mostly understanding that their Jesus wasn't even born when he was, when they say he was born. So you have all of these problems at different levels, but I'm going to leave, there are the problems that are inside of the Bible if you take it literally, and then there are the problems that I think you can wrestle with more easily that are the problems of the historical and the nature of the human species. The Roman Empire was the empire of record. They had killed Julius Caesar in, I think, 44. Augustus took over about 10, 15 years later after a famous set of battles with Mark Antony. Solidified Rome. They had 200 years of what they called the Pax Romana, or the Roman peace, which was sort of funny because, of course, they were waging war all over Europe and expanding the empire. Nowhere in any history book, anywhere, from the time of Augustus to the time of Tiberius or Titus, when there was a so-called guy named Jesus who was killed, did anybody mention, ever, a guy doing magic, walking on water, making one piece of bread into thousands of loaves of bread, turning water into wine, even though all of these tricks had been performed by other godmen like Mithras and Dionysus and Osiris, and on the list goes. Nobody actually, even though they're writing history all over the place. This is the height of Roman, the beginning of height of Roman architecture. Augustus dictates that these great, wonderful works are going to be built, that's how Rome is going to be remembered as the greatest empire ever on the planet. And in many ways, it is remembered that way. And they have historians writing and playwrights and essentially not newsmen, not journalists, but people writing the diaries of the great people of the time. And there's no mention of a guy doing magic. Then a guy who dies, when he dies, the dead come out of their graves and hang around town for a few days. Not a mention in Roman-occupied land. All right. Then, decades later, after this supposed death that is not recorded anywhere in any history of any sort at any time, you have the destruction of the Jewish state, of the Israeli tribe by the Romans. They destroy the temple. Josephus, who's the historian of the moment, offers himself into essentially, slavery so he's not killed. He is a Jew, and he's writing about what's happening. He's trying to bargain on behalf of the Jews. He writes that from 66 to 70, 1 million people were killed in and around Jerusalem. 1 million. Hundreds to thousands per day trying to escape. The Romans were merciless. They took tens of thousands of people back to Rome and made them build a park to peace. So they had killed all of their people, all of their families, dragged them back to Rome, and they made them slaves. Most of them ended up, or some large portion, in the gladiator, in the Colosseum, to die as gladiators. Not a mention of the magic guy who was there 40 years before. Oh, we maybe shouldn't screw with these people. They had this magic guy. That makes the history question very, very, very dubious. Now, what you're saying is about a lot of spiritual seekers is true. There were a lot of spiritual seekers running around the Levant, and they had names that are written in history books. There's one called Yehoshua HaNatzri, which is pretty close to Jesus of frickin' Nazareth, right? Pretty close, but the Christians say, no, he wasn't him. Imagine that. There was a guy called Philo of Alexandria who wrote about the Logos, that first, he was separating from the old Jewish thing of God is Yahweh, and Yahweh hates everything, and he's a grumpy bastard, and he's a jealous God. He said, no. God is not knowable that way. God is Word. God is Spirit. God is not knowable by magical acts here on earth. God is transcendent. It's a mystery. So he was taking in some of what he had absorbed through being really occupied by the Greeks for so long. The Jews inherited a lot of Greek wisdom. They were inculcated by it. That's what's happening at that point loosely in the ancient world. There is no Jesus of Nazareth who dies, comes back 3 days later, that anybody ever wrote about. And if you don't believe that, you can go read all the Christian apologetics and ask them. Go to the websites where Christians are asking, is it true that the Gospels were not written by Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John? Is it true that they didn't appear for 40, 50, 70, 80, 90 years after? the death of the guy that caused the sky to go black, the temple veil to rip, and the dead to walk the earth for days? Are you saying that nobody wrote about that? So how do we know that any of it's true? The answer is it's not. I mean, I don't need to go very far. The answer is it's not true. These are stories that came from earlier periods that had a political purpose, a social purpose, and a psychological purpose. And I think the psychological purpose was this. The Jews were nearly exterminated in 70 A.D. They didn't call it 70 A.D., by the way. But the Jews were nearly exterminated in 70 A.D. At that point, you get the first stories of a different kind of Jew. A different kind of Jew who doesn't want to overthrow Roman rule and thinks that the meek shall inherit the earth. No, we're not going to be messianic military guys anymore, everybody. We're going to survive by taking our anger, going underground with it. We're going to emphasize forgiveness and tolerance, and that's our message. Interesting argument. That argument was made by Marvin Harris in his book Cows, Pigs, Wars, and Witches, and I read that years ago, and it really had an impact. But I didn't follow. I was doing the AIDS thing, and I didn't follow the research all the way to the point that it's at now, where a number of, I think, gifted scholars are making the point that there's no historical evidence that this was a guy.
Well. It's a contentious debate. A lot of people, they get pissed off about it, and it ends up being about dogmatic, beliefs, and more so emotional attachment to one's beliefs. And I'm not bashing anybody or anything for them or anything like that. I'm just saying I think all of this should be looked at with an open mind, so we could have an open discussion. I'm willing to bet they just took somebody that was extremely popular, who was a truth seeker and really helping people out, and he was probably one of these many people that was crucified, and they hijacked what he was doing and transformed it into the Roman Catholic Church, because the Roman Catholic Church it's like the modern metamorphosis of the Roman Empire.
That's exactly what it was. And that happened it happened over time, but it happened in 325. I mean, we're talking 325 years after the magic isn't written about. Now, by the way, I said I have a spiritual center, and I do, and I don't mind praying to Jesus or invoking that image and name and meaning, because I understand what it means. I think it's very close to Krishna, and I think it's close to Mithras. I think that the spiritual value of these things is real, whether they're... Actually, I think the spiritual value is more real when they're not literal. I would ask you a question. If this has so much meaning in your life, to those of you to whom it does, why in the world does it have to be literally true? If the story of somebody, and you do have to cherry pick, I mean, you have to avoid all the negative stuff in the two very dissimilar, the 100 very dissimilar books of the Bible. You have to look for what you want to find and ignore everything else. But if you find those gems, like, let ye who is without sin cast the first stone, well, that's interesting, isn't it? So there's a woman who comes in. The Jews are going to stone her because she's sinned against the code of Moses that says that she's an adulteress, whatever that means. She looked at somebody the wrong way. And they say, well, we're going to trap you, Rabbi. If you say she can't be stoned, that means that you're not with us. And if you say that she can be stoned, it means you're not as good as you say you are. So the story is Jesus pokes around on the ground and said, well, why don't you who without sin, why don't you stone her? If you're without any sin at all, you can stone her. Slowly everybody leaves because nobody's without any sin. Well, guess what? That story's not in the Bible. That story didn't appear until, I think that Bart Ehrman said, the 10th century, 900s. 900s. That's when that story, that was a different story, that was a story that somebody liked, this is a long screenwriting exercise. Look at the development of the character of Spider-Man or Superman from comics to television to cartoons to movies. Now, you may be uncomfortable with this analogy, but just bear with me. These are modern gods. Superman was invented in the mold of Moses and Samson. He's a Jewish god. He is a sun god. He was invented by two Jewish kids during the height of Nazism. to represent the better qualities of fighting back against these bastards, right? The Nazis. Well, he comes from another planet. Gets his power from the sun. He can die a million times and come back to life as the sun comes back to life every morning. I mean, Superman is a solar deity, without a doubt. Now, you can see that in the beginning, he was just a very powerful man because the different gravity of Earth gave him the ability to jump really far, and he was denser, so he was stronger. He was actually based in many ways on John Carter, who was written about by, I think, Edgar Rice Burroughs prior to the Superman myth, decades before. Well, that changed because over time they didn't want to have to draw a guy leaping, so they could just draw a guy flying. So his powers increased because the writers needed his powers to increase. And it was more appealing to have him fly places. He could go, the stories could improve. And so on and so forth. And then he had a super dog, and then he had a super Lois Lane, and then he could go through space and not need to breathe, and then he could go back to Krypton, and then he could time travel, and so on, and so on, and so on. And these are the stories. This is how myths are made. And I won't go through the whole Spider-Man thing, but you get the idea. You can see the progression of a myth right in front of your eyes during our lifetimes. Because Superman, when I was a kid, they had a terrible black and white TV show when I was growing up, and suddenly there's this Technicolor movie, and this guy's really flying around, and he can reverse the spin of the Earth and send time backwards to save one human life. He's a god. Myths grow, and they steal and siphon off of every other myth in the human imagination. And the myths of the human imagination are simple. I want to be invulnerable. I want to be attractive and appealing. I want to be strong. I want to discover what my purpose is. I want to encounter meaning. The myths of the ancient cultures are all the heroes' journeys, and they progress as Joseph Campbell said they do, from the animal tales to people going and facing monsters in the world, the early Greek myths, and Beowulf, and Gilgamesh in many ways, to the later more civilized myths of Odysseus and the Iliad, and I'm struggling to find, and Superman and Spider-Man, and I guess Jesus or Muhammad. The myths of cultures that are in a particular place at a particular time. The civilization, the terrain, the geopolitical situation evokes the character of the god that they're going to worship.
It's interesting that you mentioned the Iliad and the Odyssey. Those are what we consider, modern society considers to be the first written works, right? Like that's why when you're in English class, it's the first two books usually that they teach you and have you read in high school, in like freshman high school English. Actually, they had us doing it back in middle school, but those books weren't even written by. One of them was supposedly written by what was his name, Homer. He was a blind. What do you call it? He couldn't. What's the word for it when you can't write or read? Illiterate. He was illiterate, and I believe he was blind. And the only way he was able to communicate these stories was through singing, which is actually where, or their version of song, poetry, whatever, which is where modern day singing and stuff comes from. That's how they passed down information back before people could read or write. They could tell each other stories, and that's how they would pass it on, from, either generation to generation, or even secret societies would kind of do the same thing. And then that's what led to the entertainment industry. That's where Hollywood, actually, the word Hollywood actually comes from. It goes back to this ancient cult, And all of these religions and all this stuff all go back to these ancient cults of people that were living out in, the desert and all over the place because it was nomadic at the time. People don't have this frame of reference that there wasn't cities. It wasn't like we have today. If there was, there would be some sort of archaeological evidence of this all over the world. I mean, you do have older cities later on, like the Mayans and stuff like that, and the Aztecs. But I mean, we're going beyond them. We're going back to like as far as we can begin to think about, when it comes to ancient Babylon and Sumer and stuff. But it's interesting that you mentioned the Iliad and the Odyssey, because those are always like the first two stories that are taught to children, and here they were passed down more so by memory of people singing.
Yeah, oral tradition, which is not as exciting, I guess, as it sounds initially. But the oral tradition of storytelling is what radio is today. It's people getting together and telling the stories that they hear. Now, I can tell a story, and you'll hear some of it, and you'll tell it, and guess what? It'll be significantly different. But you'll think that you told the story that I told, and I'll think I told the story that I read. But I didn't. I told the story that my particular nature picked up from the information that I was able to get, and so on and so forth, and so on. And that's what the Bible is. It's a snapshot. In fact, it's not one snapshot. It's thousands of photographs from different people over 1,500 years, 1,500 years or so, as it finally came into the King James Version. I do want to say, I had a big book sale yesterday for 99 cents, and my book, Official Stories, is $2.99 on Kindle for just through the weekend, and then it's going back up to its normal price. I know that that's a really rough segue, but it's just a fun book. Maybe we can plug it a little bit because it's cheap right now. If you haven't read it, it's $2.99 on Kindle. It's a 200-something page, tall and dense, in terms of information, but it's funny. And sometimes the criticism I sometimes get is, oh, well, it's too funny. I don't take it seriously as a research book. I'm like, well, I'm sorry. The research is there. I'm sorry it made you laugh. But how
dare you use humor to get some information across, you son of a bitch. No one's ever done that, ever, Liam.
So people either love it because it's irreverent, but it's not always. It's not just a series of jokes. It's 200-something pages. And you finally got a hold of it. That's what you told me.
Yep, I actually picked up yesterday. As soon as you told me it was on sale for 99 cents, I
hit your price point, did I?
Yes, you hit my price point.
Wow.
I was like, you know what? Because I honestly, I'm penny pinching right now because I'm saving, because I'm moving the Bat Cave to a new location.
Yeah.
And so I'm penny pinching. But when you were like, oh, it's 99 cents, I grabbed the copy and I downloaded it to my Kindle so I can read it while I'm on the go and doing my thing.
Wonderful.
And yes, I skimmed over it briefly so far. I'm kind of excited. I can't wait to actually start to cherry pick each delectable paragraph.
Oh, thank you. It's a fun book.
It's excellent writer, you sir.
Yeah, well, it's a fun book. It really is a fun book, and it's really my whole life's experience of making analysis of large-scale businesses, which is what governments are. So it's there. It's $2.99. It's not going to be cheaper for a long time. If we have another big cheap sale, it's news to me. It happens when I get
it's only $2 more than it was yesterday. It's $3. Grab a Kindle copy. Official.
Oh yeah, and you can read this on your computer, your PC, your phone, whatever.
Just look him up on Amazon. Liam Scheff, Scheff, and it'll come right up. Stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to pause this right there. Break sneaking up. Do not go anywhere. We'll be right back. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are back with hour number 2 here on tonight's live edition of Down the Rabbit Hole. I am your host, Popeye from FederalJack.com, hanging out with my good friend Liam Scheff tonight, and we've been discussing religion and, to a certain extent, some religious myth. And again, it's not a bash Christianity fest. I think part of the problem when it comes to talking about religion is that Christianity gets focused on largely in part because it's one of the largest religions, one of the main religions on the planet right now currently. And it's a lot of the stories, a lot of the roots of individuals in these stories can be traced back to other beliefs, other deities, other religions, if you will. And that ends up, in some cases, in many cases, it ends up flustering people that practice these religions and buy into it emotionally, especially if you try to have a conversation with them, they will think that sometimes they will think you're just trying to attack Christianity because you use Christianity, or like if in case of me, if I use Christianity as an example, I've been told, oh, you're attacking Christianity. But it's not just Christianity. It's all of these religions. All of them have, if you follow the base of these religions and you look at the roots of all of them, they all go back to these beliefs that have to do with alien beings and things coming down from, entities coming down from the heavens above, which is literally what the Anunnaki means. Those who from heaven to earth came, or something to that effect. So, all these different religions, even the Indians. I mean, they're if you look in the Indian religion, and I don't mean the natives of this country. I mean the Indians, like over in India. If you look at their religions, they have stories that their gods were having space battles in flying machines called Vimanas, and they were literally having like epic space battles where they were, for lack of a better word, nuking each other in some cases, where they were lighting off explosions that were as powerful as what we would consider to be a nuke. And the character of Darth Vader came out of these texts. So, in Star Wars, and Star Wars itself is an allegory for so many of these different myths. You could see the Jesus character and a lot of other mythical figures in Star Wars and in a lot of these other stories. So, again, like Liam was saying in the first hour, it's a story can get told and then it becomes a myth. Like how many people out there are huge fans of Star Wars and they know everything there is to know about the Star Wars universe and stuff? Well, think about that. If those people were put on a remote island somewhere and that's all they knew, and then they kept populating, having kids and populating the island and stuff, the future generations, if that's all they ever talked about was Star Wars and this character and that character, if they had no outside input, eventually wouldn't that become their what do they call it, mythos or whatever, where the word myth comes from? Wouldn't that become their belief? And then all of a sudden Han Solo and Luke Skywalker and Chewbacca would become, like heroes to them, right? I mean, it could happen. I'm just saying. I mean, that's how these stories, that's how this stuff happens. So, is that my buddy Joni? Oh, yeah. She's with us. Yay! Hi, Joni.
Oh, hey, darling. How you doing?
Good. Liam and I have been having a conversation for the past hour about the controversial topic of religion.
Okay.
Oh no! You want to light mood and change the subject, or are you willing to?
I am willing to go to the depths of the rabbit hole.
Oh my God! By the way, welcome back. I haven't had you on in a while, ladies and gentlemen. Joni Abbott, yay!
Hey!
As the
crowd roars,
just the hordes clap for you.
Yeah.
So how have you been, dear?
I've been really busy, really busy. Just got back from a really great vacation / workout / transformative experience in LA. And that was really a lot of fun. And now I'm back to the daily grind of work and school and kiddos and life.
You put yourself through a crucible, as it were?
Well, it was a religious experience. I'll say it was a spiritual experience. Let's just put it that way.
Are you? Did you come out on the other end better off?
Yeah, I did. 10 pounds lighter, freer, very, I don't know, just standing more in my power, learning to utilize my voice more for the things that matter. Yeah.
Well, that means you had positive change out the other end of the tunnel there. That's good.
Yeah, I wasn't sure which end you were talking about there, Popeye. I'm like, I went on a 6-day juice cleanse and detox. There was stuff coming out the other end.
Oh, wow.
For sure.
And you were doing like hardcore kickboxing and all this other stuff too, right?
Not as hardcore as I thought it was going to be. I really thought that kickboxing champion Ian Jacklin was going to, kick my rear. But actually, it was not. It was actually I worked out less than I had been in preparation for the whole event. It worked out really well.
Well, I saw the pictures that you were posting on Facebook daily, and I was keeping track of your progress. And I was like, wow, I would be tired. I go to the gym and I work out, and I was just tired looking at you. just the pictures and stuff. I was like, oh my God, that looks painful.
No, actually, I had more energy, and I was surprised at the amount of energy I had, and even the sustainability of like the lack of appetite that I had. Even while on a juice cleanse, I felt satiated. I wasn't very hungry, and it really gave me the energy I needed to keep going.
I always wondered about actually juicing and doing those cleanses and if they work, but I always, I kind of look at that. I've looked at it like, what would you call it? Like a fad. But I mean, is it really worth it to just drink juiced, what was it, vegetables and fruits, or just vegetables by themselves?
A little bit of both, but usually there's vegetable and fruits together. And the food combinations that the Pure Energy, Whole Foods Coach of the Year, Raw Foods Coach of the Year, Steve Factor put together were fantastic because he also included some healthy fats, and that helped me to stay fuller longer, but also gave my body the energy that it needed. I look at it like this. If you change your oil in your car every 3 months, why not detox your body and give your engine a break, right? Give your organs a break from overuse and being overrun with all the daily toxins that we have to take in. So it's very practical. I think, it's good to clean her out every once in a while and flooding your body with nutrients. You can never go wrong with that.
I guess not. I just always, I mean, juicing raw cannabis is one thing.
Absolutely, yeah.
I just figured that I just figured that a lot of these juice cleanses and all this other stuff, or some of them are obviously schemes or fads or whatnot. But I guess if you do it yourself and you just I'm assuming you were juicing the vegetables and the fruits on yourself. You weren't going out and buying
Actually, no, I wasn't. Actually, they were doing that. There's a juice bar. It's called Rockin' Juice. RAW is in all caps, Rockin' Juice. And they juice everything right there. There's no preservatives. Everything is like a transparent kitchen. You can watch them juicing everything. And they're pre-made combinations of juice that you can just go in and buy your own, yourself. And that whole detox cleanse comes in a prepackaged thing, so you can do 6 days or 5 days or 4 days or 3 days, and it's really a great thing that they have out there in California. Now, if you don't have something like Rockin' Juice at your availability, then doing it yourself, which I do every day, is optimal, and it's fantastic. I love it. The colors are beautiful, and you just know that it's the taste of health.
You're eating health. You're like,
I'm drinking health. I'm going.
Oh, that's true. You're not eating health. You're drinking health. Liam, do you do cleanses and detoxify your body too, or do you is your version of a cleanse going to Burger King and eating a Whopper?
Oh gosh.
All right, come on. Let's back to Jesus.
One track mind right here.
Yeah, he can't. He can't lighten up for 5 minutes. He can.
He can. Oh, yes, he can.
Yeah, this from the guy that opened the show with Christopher Walken for 5 minutes.
No, I don't know what. You know what? I don't appreciate being libeled and slandered that way. I waited my turn. Now, we were talking about Star Wars and everything else.
Yes.
You brought in Star Wars, and I think that's a great place to go, because that is part of the mythic story that a lot of us relate to, and the idea that people relate to the Bible, but they don't really relate to it. It's a stretch, but Star Wars is right there, and that's a myth that people can get. So maybe we can switch to that a little bit. I will answer your question. I try to eat very healthy, not because but I just don't like suffering. That's why. I try to eat very healthy because I don't like suffering. I eat low on the food chain. I try to get everything organic, but of course that's not possible. Or I suppose it would be if I just had as much money as, Bill Gates. So, yeah, I don't juice because I don't have a juicer. It's very expensive to juice. I just buy vegetables, chop them up, and eat them. And so that's how I do it.
Interesting. I just wanted to know if you were into, eating healthy and cleansing yourself too. It's fine. Anyway, we can get back to Star Wars.
I'm on a constant cleanse. I mean, I'm always cleansing a little bit, and I'm trying not to pollute too much, but you're always polluting a little and cleansing a little and polluting a little and cleansing a little. I mean, I drink, water with apple cider vinegar a little in there, and I, eat cabbage and parsley and things that have sulfur and chlorophyll. And I like oatmeal, which is full of silica and fats. I like avocados, which are full of fats.
Do you eat
What
pizza?
else? No.
Yeah, that's one of my weaknesses. Yep.
Like what? Like Superman? Like if you get near it, you get weak.
But it can't be like cheesy garbage Domino's pizza. It's got to be like real. The place I go, they go out of their way to not use GMO stuff. They're kind of awake. So yeah, it's gonna suck when I move the Batcave. I have to find all new places to eat that don't use garbage food. So it's gonna
Tough to do.
Yeah, in this day and age.
Pizza was a wonderful, interesting food, but I just had enough of it. It's just too burnt, and it's just the bread makes my back feel tight and gives me, makes me naughty. I just don't knots in my back.
Please tell us again how pizza makes you naughty.
Yeah, I was like, what?
So I don't see. I'm on my book page now. My book is $2.99 for the Popeye Show. It was 99 cents, and it's going to go back up to its normal price, which is about $6.
Popeye Show.
Yeah, the Popeye Show. That's
Hey,
what I call it in my
favorite
head.
books there.
That's what I call it in my head when I'm walking around.
Mr. Chef's book, official stories. Yeah.
Later I'm going to do the Popeye Show.
I'm going to do the Popeye Show.
I love you. You guys kill me. Seriously, humor is actually a very good thing. With all the craziness going on in this world today, it's okay to talk about this, deep stuff, as well as having 5 or 10 minutes of humor to lighten the mood a little bit. Because I think maybe that's what helps keep people from going insane is laughing a little bit, right?
You have to. If you don't, it's bad for your health not to make jokes. So listen to this. I want to say, even though I said there's really no good evidence for an historical Jesus, and there's not any good evidence for an historical Jesus, and the Bible is so self-contradictory, and it's clearly a screenwriting exercise that went on for too long. They just kept upending the story, and at first he's just a guy, and then he's magic, and then he's super magic, and then he's the Holy Ghost friend, and in the beginning, there's no crucifixion, then by the second one there is, and he says, why have you forsaken me? Then by Luke, he's cool. No, you didn't forsake me. I was sent here for this. But if he was sent here for this, why blame the Jews for anything? If he's here to be sacrificed, then thank the Jews for, thank Judas, who is just a scapegoat, really, whose name means Jew anyway. The whole New Testament is just a big slam of the Old Testament because the Jews were in a lot of trouble and they needed to get out of it. They mixed it with Gnosticism and so on and so forth. Now, Star Wars is the same. Star Wars has the sun god, the prodigal son, Luke. He's Moses. He's put away in a basket when he's a kid. He doesn't know his parents. He's raised by people who is not his parents. He doesn't know the full extent of his powers, but he comes from a royal family. It's Hercules. It's everybody all over again. These hero myths have a pattern that they follow. And there's even a quiz that this guy in the 19th century, I think, came up with. I can't remember his name. And he has a list of 20 items that you go through, 25 items. And, the highest any hero rates is usually about 19, 20, 21. I think Jesus is about a 17, 18. Are you a mythic figure? And you can look that up. Quiz, are you a mythic figure on the hero's journey? There's just always a pattern. Luke sacrifices himself in The Empire Strikes Back because he won't join evil. He actually commits ritual suicide and plunges down into Cloud City. But he's saved through the magic intervention of nobody knows. He just comes out on the bottom and is saved by his sister, who's essentially Isis, and he's Osiris. That's why they're kind of sexual with each other, right? Because they're not really siblings, they're gods. Every story that we tell that gets big enough that has meaning to us is inflected by the ancient archetypes that just swim in our souls. And
it isn't interesting. You say Luke's representative of Osiris, and he loses a body part.
Oh yeah,
right. But instead of it being his in the story, it was his penis. That's why they have all these phallic symbols. But he loses his right hand, like your dominant hand.
Your
right hand. Well, right hand is a sign of power. And
your wanking hand.
Oh,
God. They gave him a robot.
He'll have to learn to use his left.
Yeah, I was going to say, what about the lefties? So the right hand is a sign of power.
Can you imagine having to learn to masturbate with a robot hand?
Jesus. Oh my God!
Ow! Too hard.
What about Edward Scissorhands?
Yeah, that's not happening. Gosh, that's like Lorena Bobbitt invented that.
That's why he was so sad.
Why his face was all cut up.
Oh my god. We went down the we went down the slide rather fast on that one. So wait, Joni, you brought up a good point. The right hand is a symbol of power, correct?
Yeah. When in the conservative fundamentalist type Christian world, you have your male guest of honor, or if it's someone that you reverence or respect, you have him sit at the right hand of the table as signifying a sign of power. There is also a lot to be said about that biblically, and with different theologians who have studied that was it Jesus sat at the right hand of God. There's just a lot of significance with the exchange of power and sitting on the right, or being at the right hand.
Anti-lefty world. It's an anti-lefty world out there.
That's what it is.
Well, you see how that myth came,
lefties.
You see how that myth came about because the majority of people are right-handed, so the concept of right becomes more important than left. And then if somebody's not your left-hand man, because what would well, okay, that's utility, but really I need a right-hand man because he knows what I'm thinking and can do everything as well as I can. So
yeah, it's left-hand discrimination. Really.
It really is. But you see how the myth emerges from the reality, which is most people are right-handed. So a myth of the right being more valuable than the left is because of it's based on a physical reality that is then mythologized. A story becomes a myth over time. So and maybe a physical reality becomes a story, or it's metamorphosed into or personified as a story. So Luke can't lose his penis like Osiris, because that
would have ruined that scene. That would have just ruined the whole movie, the whole series. Gone.
And then the robot penis.
Oh gosh, no good there.
They
already make those.
I thought it was just a circumcision. I missed. My glasses must have been bad. I'm sorry, Luke. I was using my lightsaber trying to avoid a cut.
Luke, join me and together we'll rule the galaxy as father and son. I always wanted him to say, imagine it, Skywalker and son, galaxy rulers. And one day I'll die and you can take it over and you can have a kid and it will still be Skywalker and son. Like really sell it. Go the whole way.
Oh wow, dude! You should have been the writer for the movie.
Skywalker and son, galaxy rulers. The Emperor is not around very much. I don't have to do very much.
You are a little bit of a writer for a Star Wars spoof.
Joni's. Yes, I wrote a play, but the play is called Summer of '74, and we unimagined the Star Wars myth. So Scott Taylor and I, who's a writer friend of mine, wrote Star Wars as though it were a myth based on people that George Lucas had encountered in Fresno, California in 1974. So Darth Vader is Dr. Vader. He's a gynecologist. He's the head of the Republican Party in Fresno. His daughter is named Princess. That's her name. Her name is Princess. She's a Jewish-American princess, of course. Lucas is his illegitimate son that everybody pretends isn't his, but he knows because he sleeps around.
Wait, his name is Lucas?
Yeah, the kid's name is Lucas.
Cue the Shaq music now. Bell bottoms and...
Talk about a play on Luke's name and George Lucas. Nice. That double hit there, Liam.
Double hit. And then there's Hansel Jaworski, who is from emigrates from Poland. His parents were killed in World War II, and he's there and he runs the junkyard with his buddy Chewy, who is sort of half Aztec and half Mexican, who's very, very tall, and he's so high on mushrooms all the time, all he can say is, "Arr!"
Oh, man, I can't wait. Is this going to actually come to fruition?
It's on Amazon. You can buy it. It's very cheap. It's very funny. We got some good reviews, but we just haven't put it on yet. I mean, we wrote it one summer. We got some reviews done for it. We sent it to people to read. And it's just a very, very funny sort of college play. Han drives... Well, it came about because I realized when I was a teenager, I was talking with a friend of mine, and I said, we were analyzing myth. Now that I think about it, we were analyzing myth. Because if you deconstruct Star Wars, you really do have George Lucas's love of hot rods. He wanted to be a car racer more than anything. and he got into a very bad accident, and it sent him into film school. Because he wasn't going to be a car racer after that. But he loved hot rods. Now look at Star Wars. What's the backbone of that movie? It's souped up cars, vroom, going through space. So I was talking with a friend of mine in high school, and we said, what is this movie really about? Because it's not about going through space and saving the hero's journey is there, but oh my God, we realized, what's the Millennium Falcon? What does that even mean? Millennium Falcon, 1,000 years of a bird. What does it mean? And we looked at each other, and I think my friend said, and we went, it's a van. He's a guy who drives around town in a van and picks up chicks. He's like a 21-year-old who picks up chicks from, the high school. He like graduated late, and he's still dating high school girls, and he probably smuggles pot around town.
It ain't his fault he can't read.
We all had that one friend in real life.
In his van. Well, in the movie Dazed and Confused, it's Matthew McConaughey. That's the dude. And you sort of like, yeah, okay, I know that dude. And that's Han Solo. He's the guy who drives around town in his van. He's like, yeah, okay. And he's a smuggler because he's a smuggler. He's moving ganja. And that's in the play. Our Hansel, or Han, is a smuggler.
What's the title of this?
Summer of '74.
Summer of '74. And you can buy the screenplay
on Kindle and on paperback.
Somebody needs to make this into a play.
It's a play. It's there. It's ready to be.
No, but some talented people need to take it and actually
mount it out.
Yeah, mount the play. I guess whatever you'd say. They need to act it out.
Oh, it's very funny. We should. You know what? I should get you and Chris and Cherie and some people to do some scenes.
We could do voice work. Yeah, we could definitely do
we could do an audio,
old school radio.
Yeah.
Have somebody stand in the background with like a big tin sheet for thunder.
Yeah. Well, we don't have any thunder, but we do have a key party. So it's a kind of a sexy play, and Dr. Vader's a gynecologist / proctologist. So there's that.
Dude, we could totally do this. Seriously, we should totally do like an audio. We should put on the Truth Frequency Radio presents Summer of '74. Yes,
yeah.
We should do it.
Yeah, okay. I'll get you guys.
And release it at Christmas time when people are feeling nostalgic.
It's hugely funny. The lines are really. It's very witty, and it's dry and subtle, and then it's not so dry sometimes. There are just obvious sex jokes, and one of the things, Princess is sort of seeing Hansel or Han, and she just has no respect for him because he's just so beneath her. He's like an Eastern European emigre, and her name is Princess. She wears high heel white boots, that cut above the knee. She's just great looking, and he's just sort of sloppy and a little bit rugged and messy, and I think he eventually falls in love with. I think he eventually finds his match in. Well, there's an Indian. Well, they're not sure what it is because ethnicity was sort of confusing in the '70s. So it's sort of they don't know what it is. They call it Chinese food, but it's actually Indian. And it's run by Django and Boba Fett. They're a nice couple from India.
You thought of everything, dude. Really.
No stone left unturned.
How many characters were you able to squeeze in this thing really quick? We got 45 seconds before the break sneaks up.
Well, there's Charles Pettigrew III, and of course, he's C-3PO. He's a very tall, good-looking African-American dude from a very wealthy family. He has gold lame roller skates, so he's there. We got Chewie, Han, Lucas, Dr. Vader, Princess, everybody. Oh, the Emperor is Richard Nixon.
He's Emperor Palpatine?
Yeah, because, Dr. Vader is head of the Republican Party in Fresno, and so he talks to him in this sort of two-way advanced technology that they have, this rear projection TV that they have in the 70s.
Oh, we really have to act this out. Yeah,
it's pretty good.
We're going to do this. We're going to do this, ladies and gentlemen. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. 3 short minutes. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. If you're interested in purchasing a copy of Liam's book, just go to Amazon.com, look up Liam's name, just type in Liam space Scheff, and his book will come up. Also, if you're interested in purchasing his the title of the book, by the way, is Official Stories. If you are interested in purchasing a copy of his, I guess you could say, well, play, script, whatever you want to call it, his manuscript for his masterpiece, you can go to Amazon too. In fact, we dropped the link over in the chat room. So if you want to go to the Listen Live page over on Truth Frequency or the Listen Live page on federaljack.com, you can get the link for his play there. It's Summer of 74. Just go to, you can also look up, I'm sure it'll come up if you look up his name on Amazon, but you can also look up the title Summer of 74. You can download that and purchase it, and you can also get his other book, Official Stories. See, Liam's not only a radio show host and a comedian, he's also an author. You're just a jack of all trades, aren't you, buddy?
What did you call me?
Or Liam of all trades.
Wow, man.
Should I call you a Liam of all trades?
Wow, man.
Whoa.
The unofficial, unauthorized story of how Star Wars really began in Barstow, California, 1974. A young boy in rural California dreams of getting out of his small town. His mother grows herbs, but young Lucas is sure there's a higher calling for him. The most powerful man in town is Dr. Vader, head of the Barstow Republican Party. He's a gynecologist proctologist who swings through key parties and may or may not have a number of illegitimate children in town. In the meantime, all right, anyway, it's all there.
Key parties. Wow, being a child of the 70s, I remember hearing about those in real life. Like, hearing people.
I can't separate my association now from the media that's been done about it. I remember the 70s. I remember bead curtains and caftans and, just sort of flouncy evening wear, robes and things like that. A lot of blouses. And
the beads over the doorway.
Pit stains. I remember a lot of pit stains. Men with pit, sweat stains.
Horrible shirts. Like
horrible short sleeve polyester button downs.
With like the world's worst designs imprinted on them.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of Paisley myself. Thank you very much. I'll take that.
Yeah, but this was like Paisley threw up.
True. The pea green, like baby poop green that we could have lived throughout the 70s.
That's what I'm saying. Like, what was with the Technicolor shirts?
LSD.
Like the 70s is one time period that we should never repeat, ever.
Oh, I don't know about that. I dig the bell bottoms and the platform shoes and like the hair.
You had Steely Dan. You had Zeppelin. I don't know.
Great
I'm not saying the music. I just mean the clothing-wise. How about that? Or the Joni likes the bell-bottom pants.
I do. I actually have a pair of jeans that are about ready to give out on me.
Springsteen, Layla.
Clapton. Oh my gosh. Got me on my knee. Okay, we're gonna start singing here in a minute. Myths. Let's finish talking about that. So,
hey, thanks for bringing out the Summer of 74 thing. I don't have a lot of time to promote it or do anything with it. It's a very funny thing that we wrote that interweaves some Holocaust comedies in there because we play on the notion of two different family lines. There's the Hansel's family. He's Han, but he's Hansel, and his parents were Catholics in Poland, and they were persecuted. And then there's Dr. Vader. Oh yeah, I forgot her. Princess's Dr. Vader's mother is called Nana Yota, so she's Yoda, right? And she's a tiny little shriveled thing, and she used to dance for troops in World War II. And she's full of wisdom, and of course she speaks in sort of broken English, so she sounds a little like you-know-who. And she walks around with a cane. I think we got all the major characters. I don't know if we got. I think we got Guido. We didn't get Guido, but we got Guido, who is a very fat Mexican American movie buff who's there in town who does deals with Han. I don't know if we have. I think there's a Lando, but I can't remember why. And then there's Sheriff. There's Sheriff Ty, and his car is of course the TIE fighter.
Oh no, that's horrible.
And he's straight out of Smokey and the Bandit. He's
like Buford T. Justice.
He's sweaty and greasy and corrupt and
Boy,
disgusting.
When I get home, I'm gonna punch your mama in the mouth.
But it's a subtler thing than and it's funny and it ends with a disco song, Disco Inferno. So
We need to actually do this. We need to actually do this. We're gonna get together with Chris, Joe, and the other host, Joni. If you'd like to partake, you're more than welcome, dear.
Yeah, I would have a blast.
There are 4 female parts. So Cherie, Joni, and yeah.
Oh, cool. We'll find
split it.
Yeah, you guys can split it, or we could find, if we even had to find a third person or whatever, we could figure it out. But that's perfect. We need to do this.
There's Ben. There's old Ben, and Ben is
Kenobi.
That's not his name. His name. He was in the army with Dr. Vader, where they might have had a short gay experience in a foxhole, and because Ben is the guy from Matt's Game who talks like this. I can't remember his name right now, but that's who he is. That's who he is. He's the guy who
Jim J. Bullock.
No, it was before Jim J. Bullock. It was the guy who was on Bewitched. Oh, Sam, he was that guy. So he's there.
It was the guy from Dallas.
He might be. No, not Larry Hagman. No, the guy from Bewitched.
One.
The guy from Bewitched who was the clearly the gay uncle. Oh, people out there are screaming his name. I just can't remember it right now. But he was like the only gay celebrity on anything for a long time, and he would he'd show up on Love Boat, and
the guy that had he's squinty eyed and got the glasses.
No, he always wore a scarf knotted to one side. Anyway, he's that guy.
I know who you're talking about.
And he's Ben, and he's always drinking in the middle of the day, and he owns the Day Glow Bar. He owns the Day Glow Bar, and you go in there, and he's just drinking in the middle. Oh, hey, young Lucas, what are you doing? And he knows all the town secrets, so he's gossiping, giving people advice, and so I think we got everybody. Everybody important.
Do we need to act this out? We need to do seriously. We need to do a Truth Frequency. Truth Frequency presents Summer of 74.
Summer 74. 69.
I was going to do stupid
Summer.
Brian Adams.
Summer 74.
No, we were very clear about this. It had to be done before Star Wars, and it needed to be in the 70s. We only had a certain number of years to place it. We needed Ricky Don't Lose That Number had to be on the charts because it comes in as one of the songs. And there's some songs written into the script, so we had to look at music too. We thought about it, we really wrote it. And if I didn't have 8 things going on, I guess I'd be out there really promoting it. But what do I want to do? I want to talk about whether Jesus was an historical figure.
I know Liam wants to have serious conversations in here. No, I'm glad that Joni brought that up. That just spurred a huge idea.
It's a great idea.
And I think a landmark radio event. So, and you know what? Nobody does radio like that anymore. There's talk radio.
Old-time radio.
Yeah, but
radio drama.
Yeah. That's a great idea, Joni. Thank you, dear.
You're welcome.
That's awesome. Making the light.
I guess that's what females are for sometimes, right? Bring a little bit of a balance, a little bit of feminine energy.
Yes, we needed it.
Gay. So what I'll do is...
Oh, bite me.
What?
I said, oh, bite me.
That's right. Get him, Joni.
Lord.
What I did was, what I will do is get you and Chris and Cherie, Kindle copies or something like that. So you'll have those and you can read them. There's a comic book. I did illustrate a comic book for it. That's there. You can look at it. It's cute. It's just the first act.
How awesome it would be if one of the listeners was like a comic book artist.
It would be great.
And they wanted to illustrate the whole thing in super.
I know 2 of them.
Comic book fashion.
I would be really happy to hear from them.
Really? I've got 2 friends that are.
Yeah, but you have to love the prospect of it, because you're going to be working for free, and then you'll get a little money if we sell any of them.
Yeah, Summer of 74, the graphic novel.
Yeah, well, I did. I told you I put together I did the art for Act 1. So all of Act 1 is there in a short comic book, and it's full color and it's cute. But they're more efficient and proficient comic book artists. I'm a good painter, but it's really hard. It's really hard to do comic book layout. It's just so time intensive. And I'm a painter. I'm not a. I mean, there's just a difference. I mean, I like painting.
Were you referring to Paul Lynde?
Paul Lynde? That's exactly who it was.
Yes, one of the listeners in the chat room brought it up. So
oh, young Lucas, what are you doing? Don't you know? And he knows who his
listener.
And he knows, he knows that Dr. Vader is his father, and he's just constantly telling him, but Luke just doesn't hear anything. And Luke's just so sweet, and he does kung fu, and he's just a sweet little boy kid who has a terrible crush on Princess, even though she's his half sister, but he doesn't know it, but he doesn't really care anyway.
Oh, this needs to get done. It really does.
Yeah.
Interesting that you chose that. The first time you saw Star Wars, did you realize that it was obviously an allegory, and there was,
No, I was hooked. I was 6 years old. I mean, I was in love. I mean, I wanted to be Luke. I didn't have a father. My father had left. I was him. I was on the hero's journey. I was staring into the twin suns, sitting over the hill, wondering where my destiny lie. It was perfect. It's a perfect hero's journey movie, and The Empire Strikes Back deepens it. It deepens all of the mysticism, some of the Hebrew stuff, the Greek stuff. It's all there. Irvin Kershner made it. It was rewritten by Lawrence Kasdan, who is a really phenomenal film writer, and Lee Brackett. It was improved in every possible way from the first, which was very good. But the second's an excellent archetypical story with fuller characterization and two deaths. Two deaths. Han Solo dies as far as we know. Han Solo dies in that movie, or is put into a state of death where he's outside of the realm of the living. He's put into the freeze, and you don't know if he's ever going to come back. And then Luke dies. I mean, he gets his hand cut off, and then he throws himself to suicide. Now, when Lucas remade those, recolored those in the late 90s, do you remember this, Popeye? I don't know if Joni saw this, but do you remember what he did to that scene where Luke gets his hand cut off? Darth Vader, his father, Dark Father, says to him, "Join me. Give in to this world machine that I run. I kill people. I ruin people's lives, but I'm very successful." That's what he's saying. And Luke, what does Luke say? Do you remember?
The original was, didn't he said, "No, I'll never join you"?
Yeah, he says, "No, I'll never join you, never." And then he says, "No," and he screams.
Yeah, no, never. Right?
Yeah, Mark Hamill gets made fun of that, but it's an emotional moment where he says, "I'm your father," and it's just a guttural, wrenching, sometimes, you just scream. But do you remember what he does then?
That's impossible. Then he throws him, isn't that when he throws himself off the thing?
Yeah.
And then he ends up getting caught on like an antenna or whatever it is.
He kills himself. I mean, he has the opportunity to join this guy to save his life, and he looks at him, and he smiles, and he falls. He commits ritual suicide. It's the most powerful moment in that movie. And it's allowed to happen, and he falls silently. We don't know if he's going to live. He falls silently down what looks like a 2-mile chasm. I mean, he's dead. In real life, he's dead. And then he slides along the wall and is absorbed through these sort of vagina tubes, And then finally he's spit out of the belly of the whale, and he's on the bottom hanging on these TV antennas. And then Isis, his sister, comes along and saves him. But do you remember what George Lucas did when he remade them? He colored a little mouth on the special editions. He colored a little mouth because the Mark Hamill figure falling down was silent and his mouth was closed. He colored a little mouth so it was open, and he put in a scream, "No!" Because when George Lucas redid it, he decided Luke didn't kill himself. He robbed it of its symbolic meaning. Luke made a choice there. He said, "I'm not going to do the thing that would be easiest right now, which would be to save my life and become a very powerful person doing things that I hated. I'm going to let myself die." That's the hero's journey. I mean, he made that choice, and it's so significant. And George Lucas, whose mind was taken over by GMOs or sugar or something, I mean, God knows, absolutely raped his own creation. Anyway, there you are.
Wow.
Interesting.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't know that he did it to remove it, but it doesn't surprise me. Look, he just sold it to Disney. Way to go, George. Did you see his face when he was sitting there like shaking Mickey Mouse's hand when the day he handed the keys over?
I can't believe I'm really doing this, probably.
What did it look like to you?
It looked like I think he realized he was either making a mistake or they had some sort of dirt on him, or maybe he didn't really want to do it, but maybe he wasn't fully happy with his decision. I don't know. There was this look on his face.
No, he did a very dark thing, but he had already ruined his project. You know, he had already destroyed it. It was already gone. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, he had this thing that was beautiful, and he destroyed it. Something went wrong, and he couldn't stop screwing around with it. And it's a great lesson for any artist. You make your work, you complete it, you do your best, and then you walk away. And if you want to futz with it, you go do something else. You go be creative somewhere else. You know, it's a great lesson. Art has to live in the place that it was made, and if it's immortal, it will be immortal, and if it's not, it will just be temporal. Anyway, those are my thoughts on George Lucas and Darth Vader. And
yeah, they sold out. Now everything's getting crossed over. Disney owns like everything. They have their hands on everything, and like on ABC, you want to talk about writing myths and rewriting myths and mixing myths, right? ABC has this show. What was it called? And I pay attention to this stuff purely because it's important for me. Like, if I'm going to be able to analyze and break down the programming to the people that are being programmed.
Go ahead, fanboy. Go ahead.
No, I have to know what's on, but I don't watch it.
Fanboy.
I don't watch it, but I know. I've done the research on the storyline. But Disney owns ABC, right? And the show on ABC.
Don't even get a laugh.
It's called. I did. I was laughing. It's
on the inside, Popeye. Yeah. On the inside.
It's what is it called? Neverland, something like that. I can't remember the name of the show.
Once Upon a Time?
I think that's the one with all the different story, with all the they take like every story from every movie and then every childhood myth, and then now they're starting to drag in like movies that Disney bought from like other people. And it's just, they're starting to mix everything together, and they put all these different characters from these different quote-unquote myths, right? That's where a lot of those stories that Disney did came from, right? And they're taking all these mythological characters, mythological to many young kids, including people our age. We remember growing up watching Disney movies, or at least being put in a room where the Disney movie was put in the VCR or the Betamax if you're old enough, and told to be quiet and just watch it. But it's kind of like mythology, and here you have that show everything's being merged. Now, you've seen it, Joni. You know what I'm talking about?
I have not seen it because I don't watch mainstream television. I find it rather boring and lacking, and I don't sit still long enough to get through anything usually. No, I haven't seen. But I know what you're talking about. I have friends that watch it. I think my daughters have seen it.
Yeah, I don't have cable either. What I do is I do the whole streaming thing. If I can't get it from a streaming website, and I mean like the free streaming websites, well, then I'm just not going to pay for it.
Look, I love Ginnifer Goodwin, and I think she does a lot of really great movies. I do. And I know she's in Once Upon a Time, and I've thought to myself, wow, if I ever get time to sit down and actually watch something, perhaps I might like something like that. But I'm so allergic to the myth of Disney and princesses and these fairy tale lives and marriage turning out the way we like in our weird, girly way of thinking reality is going to be one thing and really it's another. So yeah, I'm just kind of hyper allergic to that stuff right now. Would you like me to tell you how I really feel about this?
Yeah, don't hold anything back, Joni. It's not good to hold your emotions in. You should really let things out. No, I agree with you. Yeah. I can't watch TV because I get really pissed. And it's to the point where, I point things out left and right, and I'm like, here you go, here you go, here you go.
Yeah.
Like, my wife, if we're out in public and we're at a place where there's a TV going, she knows that I can't be near the TV because I'll start, like, they always have the news on, and I'll be like, liar.
Yeah.
Liar.
People think you have Tourette's syndrome at your pizza parlor.
Yeah, exactly. Because they say stuff, and I'm like, and I just outright, and usually it's like, you effing liar is what comes out of my mouth, and then people are looking at me, and it's like, no, I don't have Tourette's. I can't see that stuff. So what I do is like to analyze stuff. If I hear something new is coming out or I see chatter of it, I go and I do research of the show and like the storyline, and I'll go to like the fan websites and all that stuff.
Yeah, I just think I'd rather focus on what's true. Like that was something that was a sincere prayer in my own spiritual walk years and years ago, and I just find it to be a waste of time if it's not truth or adding to what I know or adding to my understanding of what we are as a species and culture.
But
so
boys,
yeah,
but some people need boys need myths, and we're
well, so do girls, I guess.
No, they do, and some girls like fiction more than others. Some like fantasy, some like romance stories, some some like the illusion of romance stories.
Yeah, but I like to actually go in, like, once I find out, I wait for something to, like, play out, and then I'll go back and I'll research it just to see, because I like, now...
Understood, but you're seeking the mythic experience.
No, no, I don't do it for
you are.
No, you don't get it. I do it to expose what they're talking about.
You don't get it.
No, like...
It's you that don't get it. You're a secret fanboy, like... Hey, guess what? Avengers 2 is coming out. I'm going to watch it 8 times to look for the Illuminati symbol.
No, I don't watch any of that crap. I really don't. I know certain things, but I know, and I have seen certain things here and there, but no, I'm definitely not a fanboy. Although, I still do have my comics from when I was a kid, because I'm waiting for them to be worth $1 bazillion.
Like I said,
I'm the seer of privileged information.
My case is rested. All right, so I see every... I see every big comic book movie I can. I wait for it to go through the theaters, and then when it comes on the red box and it's $1, I'll watch it, and I think about it, and I what's the myth? What's it saying? Does it have any value? I mean, that's what I look for. Because.
Exactly. Don't you see that a lot of the stories is almost like a lot of the times in some of the movies it's the same story being retold, but it's just
there are only about 8 stories. There are only 8 stories to tell, and you can take them apart and take parts of them and swap them and swap them and swap. Maybe there are 12 stories. Maybe.
Ding, ding.
Eventually, you figure it out, right?
I've got the $1,000 question, Alex. What are myths?
Trebek.
Myths or stories?
Well, stories that are told over and over again and have resonance become mythologies. They become myths. A myth is a story that has a psychological value, a strong psychological function. It's not just information. So a myth, like Star Wars, has incredible psychological value for people. If you go on the web and you look up George Lucas raped or destroyed my childhood, you'll find dozens and dozens, maybe hundreds of people echoing these sentiments or talking about this reality. That when George Lucas changed Star Wars over and over again and then ruined it with 3 egregious movies, people felt something that they didn't even understand had been taken away from them, because their Odyssey, their Iliad, which was pure, mostly, except for the Ewoks, which was mostly pure, was denigrated, was, the guts were robbed from it. Han Solo did shoot first because he was a murderous mercenary who was going to save himself first. That was his character. George Lucas undermined everything when he remade those movies or colored them differently, whatever it would be, digitally. So the myth is very, very important to people. And people, we go to the movie theater to worship the ancient Greek gods. Why do people want to go see Superman versus Batman? What's real about that? That movie's going to make $1.5 billion. I don't care if it's the worst movie ever made. People have been waiting their entire lives to see a movie where Superman and Batman are in the same movie with high production values, and they get into a fight.
It's like Clash of the Titans.
Yeah, but these are real titans in the mythic imagination of Western culture that worships science, that's killed all its gods, that has no mystery religions, no mystery inculcation. The nerdy, sweaty, stinky comic book shop is a place where people go to satisfy their mythic imagination. And when I was a kid, comics were pretty bland. There was Spider-Man, and it was pretty tame. But by the mid-'80s, Frank Miller had reinvented comics forever.
Because in the 70s, they were all like, Spider-Man is no vandal. Shut up.
Yeah, I know.
You know, you're being chased by some creature that's about to rip your face off. Break the window and hop in. No, that would be vandalism. No, that would be called self-preservation at this point. Okay.
Right. They underwent a sort of a 50s cleansing, but then they got really rough and dirty. And they're very rough and dirty, and they've been rough and dirty for a long time.
Well, now it's all like, now the chicks all dress like whores. They have like thongs and stuff. They're fighting evil in like a bikini. Really? Is that functional, ladies?
Not functional. Dental floss.
Joni, as a woman,
functional.
are dental floss bikinis fighting evil entities? Is that really functional?
No. It's just the hypersexualization of our culture, the schizophrenia that we have in our culture, the exploitation of women, and we sometimes let them do that. I agree. I have to cut us off, guys, because the break is sneaking up. Thank you so much for coming on, you two.
Thanks, and my book, Official Stories, is $2.99. It's not going to be this cheap again for a long time. Very, very, very fun book. JFK, CIA, 9/11 vaccination, HIV, Shakespeare.
It's a good book. Get it. We're out of time. I have to cut Liam and his jokery off. Bye, everyone.